My vision as an educational technology leader, well, let's just say I have a lot of ideas, especially over the last year during COVID 19. Gave me a perspective on what to do for students. Though I will say, I have a lot of leadership at Cal State LA to teach me a lot about what to do in the future. And also, I have experience as a student or maybe a few little tweaks I can do. I mainly, as an educational technology leader, I want students and faculty to know my role as an educational technology leader. I want everyone in the community to know what I'm there for and what I'm trying to do as a technology leader and how I'm trying to change the lives of students and make things easier for each student. One of the most important things as an educational technology leader is knowing your students well. Having empathy, knowing decision making, knowing self-esteem, motivation. What motivates these students? Also, you need to know about their awareness. You have to make them aware of their education and their surroundings and their environment. And I want to be the teacher that makes things comfortable for students. By doing these things, well, you have to understand distant learning. You have to know what impacts these students. And if you're integrating technology in that, especially now, you have to know what technology impacts these students and how it impacts these students. Now, my goal as a teacher or an educator is to know the advantages and disadvantages of distant learning technology, but also kind of intermingling both of them. A lot of students who have busy schedules now have more time available to themselves, especially with the schools closing right now. That is an advantage, but unfortunately there's a disadvantage. Now we know with no faculty and students around, there are some learners who could become a little more distracted and less focused to turn in assignments in on time, especially without face-to-face interaction. The thing is, as an educator, you want your students, you have to be able to trust your students that they're going to do the assignments, that they're going to do the work. And when you integrate these technologies, you have to be able to communicate with the students. My vision is for my students to be able to adapt to all the newest technology that we're using in schools today. But by doing that, I have to make sure that they stay focused. I have to make sure that they're not distracted by the technology. Because yet, these aren't traditional ways now. Things have changed. And, with this current situation of COVID-19, we don't know what's going to change later. That's why my goal is to really push for the mayor's cognitive theory of multimedia for instructional design. Now, this theory really spreads and it really goes a long way in educational learning, especially with technology being integrated into schools today. The reason for this is the brain processes auditory and visual information differently. Each student is different. And even taking classes online at home, you can't assume that each student is going to learn the exact same way. That's why you have to make sure that each student can learn these easier ways. Also, you have to make sure that you are very diverse in how you educate your students. And this is why it's very important that you learn how your students learn. Each student is very different and very important. As an educator, my goal is to always know what the limits are to how much auditory and visual information students can process. It is my job to learn my student and learn how they can learn and process the information that I teach them. As an educational technology leader, it is my goal to understand and be actively engaged in order to move knowledge from working memory to long-term memory. My goal is for these students to be able to remember everything that they learned throughout their years in school and use that information after school. My recommendations and goals, they go beyond school, they go beyond the student. It's also about the parents, it's also about the community. And as an educator, I want to make that impact on these students. I want them to have fun, but I want them to also learn. And this is why I do suggest teaching short and focused lessons to avoid these distractions, especially now, because taking classes at home is different. And being on Zoom for long periods of time, it can definitely distract you. It can definitely mess with your brain. It can mess with your eyes. It can really throw you out of sync. But at the end of the day, my vision is not going to change. It's still to make learning fun, to make learning exciting, to make learning worth it, make these students really want to come to school, whether it's in person or online.